Hey, did you know you can go to colinmullen.com? I should really just record one version of this and just use it every single time, but, that would be smart or effective use of my time. So instead, colinmullen.com. That's where you can get art today. This painting, last week's painting, assuming I actually upload them, colinmullen.com. So hey everybody, before we get into today's topic matter, I want to talk about this painting a little bit because I'm still working on it, which is why the full content will be a bit late. The render time is going to be about 1.5 times longer than the actual video, and the video itself is looking to be somewhere around 20 hours. I've been working on it for about 3 weeks. I put a poll up letting you guys decide what I paint next, and you guys decided Yakuza, so I was like, cool, I'll do that. It's this really cool street in Sotenbury, which is based on, what is the name of the town? Doltonbury. Very clever switch up there. But the amount of work that it takes to get this thing done is just insane. So this is going to be a little bit late on the full content, and I apologize. I'm going to try and get it out on time, but I digress. Anyway, let's talk about today's thing and all that jazz. And thank you if you're a patron on patreon.com. There will be another poll similar to it coming out probably today on what we do next. But anyway, so what is the point of art? That is today's subject. Every single art movement since basically art movements were really a thing, if you want to talk about art history, every single one that the artists were actually actively choosing what the subjects they were doing were, and they were just being commissioned to do stuff, has had people who go and say something along the lines of, we are the, new, we are the important, we are the guys usually, who are creating this new vision of the world, and everyone else is, languishing in the awfulness of the last past art that doesn't connect with today's people, and we have to listen to their crap that we don't want to listen to it anymore. We're going to tell you, we're going to show you what real art is and the real importance of art and all that. And then inevitably they do something, whatever it is. That's basically every art movement in a nutshell. It's people being angry about the last people not getting it right. So saying what the point of art is and being able to consolidate what they said with what, people were doing prior to that, people who were commissioned mostly, who are working for kings and royals and churches and stuff like that. What the point of art is kind of it can be difficult to nail down and really have like a good comprehensive definition that works for everybody and for every art movement that has ever existed. I think the easiest way to figure it out is kind of breaking down what the point of everything that they were doing was. And after doing some thinking, and I probably will come up with another definition later, my interpretation or my take on what makes what art is, like what the point of art is the point of art seems to be exclusively to show us what's important, as told by the person who had creative control over the art itself. And so if you take that lens and you look at it amongst all the different art movements, it seems to work. It seems to work with every single art movement that has ever existed. So you want to talk about like some old school stuff where you got the royals, going, hey, this is propaganda. Like, we are your king. We're awesome because we're your king, and you should be, you should like us because we're your king, and we're rich, and we have money, and we have all these little signifiers. Like, look at, I have a glove, but I don't use it. Look at how smooth my hands are. Weird stuff like that. They have this little, like, additional things that they put into the work. And then you move on and you get like churches talking about how important they are and how important God is and all of that kind of stuff. And then when artists really start to be able to creatively decide what they're doing, they start saying really random stuff is important. Warhol is talking about the importance of pop figures and things that are in his life that we associate with on a daily basis. And then you get the minimalists where it's just like the form is what's important. It's the shape of the things that's, important. We don't even need to be talking about the, we can have art that has no meaning. It's just aesthetically beautiful. Not that they were the first to do that, but, people get confused about what minimalists were doing. I feel like this working definition works for pretty much every art movement ever. Now, they are more specific about what they think is important, but I think it's important to understand that that's what the function of art is to talk about what's important to us. Because then when you look back at old paintings or, new paintings, new art that seems to resonate with people of the times of whenever it was made, you start to see that, like, there's a bit of a cohesive line there. Like, there's obviously a lot of art that's lost to history that doesn't resonate with us anymore and didn't resonate with the people at the time, because what the artist was saying was important didn't seem to really be important to anyone else. It didn't really work for anyone else. The idea, that a nation that no longer exists was important, or, something along those lines, or a specific weird ideology that the artist might have had was important, really doesn't hold the same weight as, stuff that still works for us today. More successful art, you could say something back in the day and say, this is what's important, and people still agree to that. But you have some really interesting understandings of what people were like back in the day based on what they said was important. And that people, for some reason, latched onto that idea. We forget how different we are from people just a couple hundred years ago, There's so much there that kind of separates us. Like, the idea that, like, money is a fairly recent invention, that we use it, and that trade was a thing, and, where you were born was where you would stay. A foreigner would be a guy from the next town over. Like, things are so different now that somehow throughout time we're able to still say these things are important, and it's cool when those things are still important. And then you get, the same kind of stuff as we did back in the day. A king might say, oh, I'm important. Well, kings don't really do that anymore, but you still have people, doing art for companies or whatever, so you have the Coca-Cola symbol, and, that art is meant to entice you. It's meant to make you have the understanding that Coca-Cola is good and tasty and is important, and you'll be cool, and you'll hang out with cool friends if you drink it. Like, it says a lot in the marketing, and the art, the aesthetic of Coca-Cola lets you know that you're, cool for drinking it. And it is cool to drink it, even though it's essentially just a candy bar in a can. It's telling you that it's important. And it's telling you why it's important to you and why you care. It's interesting to see, when you think about that's the function of art, where that leads you. I've been thinking about it for the past, couple of months, trying to figure this out. Trying to figure out what exactly the point or the definition of why people do art is. And it's essentially just like a culmination of our society saying what is and is not important. And the stuff that sells well, the stuff that, gets the Instagram lights or gets the notoriety to some degree, seems to be the stuff that people are in agreement. Yeah, that's cool. That's important. I agree. I like that. I identify with that. I think that really gets you down to what makes art is when everyone gets to that point. Or at least the artist is able to convince a significant number of people that that's the truth. That's called an art movement, or at least a really good piece of work. But anyway, I'm waffling a bit. Why don't we talk about all of the people on Patreon? And like I said, sorry the full content's going to be late. This painting is just taking forever. I want to make sure that it's done to its completion before I try and actually send it out to you guys. And there will be a poll coming out in the next couple of days on Patreon. So if you want to join the lovely people on patreon.com/RevScarecrow, you can go to the link in the description. But for the people who have donated at least $5, I want to say, hey, thank you. Starting with Watfu. Thank you, Watfu. Thank you, Theodore Corbier. Thank you, Spiral. Thank you, Spencer Kane. Thank you, Punkster. Thank you, Flenixia Theoran. Thank you, Oboist Kirby. Thank you, Moodles. Thank you, Micah. Thank you, Maliciousness. Thank you, Lost Nevada. Thank you, Kayla. Hollenker? I'm butchering your name, I'm very sorry. Thank you, Geizazan. Thank you, Duxu. Thank you, Cappy Rose. Thank you, Bubba Fair. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Amber. And thank you, Adam Kearney. Y'all are great. Thank you so much for supporting me. Despite the fact that I have a weird upload schedule and all of that jazz, y'all are so cool to me, and I appreciate it so much. If you want to join them, patreon.com/RevScarecrow. Anyway, this is where I'm signing off and signing out. I'll see you in a couple weeks to talk about more art stuff. So subscribe if you want to hear that. Anyway, I'll see you then. Bye.